Well, hello, my friends. I am CK, and I'm the host of a new and amusing podcast called Mirths and Monsters. Ever wondered about the cry of the haggis?
Okay, they know.
Or wondered if a man and his canine companion, say hello Finn, could travel back in time to watch a celebrity death match between St. George and the Dragon? Wonder no more. All these are answered and more on Mirths and Monsters, available on iTunes, Podbean and SoundCloud. Catch me on Twitter at Mirths and Monsters or mirthsandmonsterspod@gmail.com. Till next time, slanja. Your health.
Welcome to your nightmare. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night, we're the people you were dreaming about. Welcome to Color Me Dead.
Okie dokie.
Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody.
Welcome back, everybody.
Let's try that again.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Good God.
God bless us, everyone.
Like Fievel from the American Tell.
Right? If you don't know who we are Color Me Dead with Ember and Angel.
And we're coming back to the Toy Box Killer Part 2.
So if you have not heard Part 1, please go back. Having
Please stop.
headphones is so weird.
Please stop the audio right now. Return to Toy Box Audio number 1 and proceed to get mentally fucked and prepare yourself to be mentally and emotionally fucked now.
Prepare your anus because it's going to be on a suction.
Oh, panting assholes.
And shriveled up badges.
Oh, for sure, because if you thought what you got in part 1 was going to be awful, what we have in part 2 is even worse.
Oh, yes. And the voice, the audio in part 1, some people got.
I think quite a few people caught on to it, but if you did not, that was actually Sir Quinn Hammond,
Yes.
Ember's husband, who gracefully offered to read that for us, and it worked out quite well.
It did. I got a text from Nikki, and she's like, I think I'm going to be terrified from Gwen.
You know what? I got, after I got through the episode, because I don't listen to it. You listen to it while you edit. Right. I listen to it after it drops. Mm-hmm. And I text him, I was like, hey man, good job on the audio. Mm-hmm. And he's like, thanks, it was fun. And I was like, that was fun?
Don't say it was fun.
I know, don't say it like that. Otherwise, I can't come over to your house anymore.
Otherwise, I'm going to be nervous.
I don't want to play at your house no more.
I can't come over anymore. Your husband said that was fun.
So.
Yeah. Also, if we sound weird or different this time, it's because we now have newer shit.
We have cooler shit happening right now. We each have headphones and we can hear our own voices, which I had to spend a good 30 minutes getting used to that before I could even speak. But we each have our own headphones, our own mic, and Ember learned some cool shit to make things better.
And we have some ghetto stuff over our microphones right now.
We should probably take pictures of it, at the end.
We will, because our microphones are waving at each other. I have my son's little gloves on it right now because we're cool. But yeah, you were kind of like a parrot. When you put a blanket over a bird, it makes a couple squawks and then it's like, fuck. And then it gets quiet. That's what you did with your headphones.
I don't like it. Yeah, it does. It takes a minute. Like when you actually have headphones on and you can hear your own voice.
Mm-hmm. It's freaky.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because I hate my own voice. And so having to
I don't
hear
mind mine, but I definitely am more aware of it now.
Yeah.
Like the way I sound, I'm all,
oh no.
All right.
Yeah, I hate my voice. And so hearing it back, I'll talk a little slower because I'm trying to process it.
And now we get on with the show. Is that
is it kind of Sundays? Which nobody outside
David Parker Ray.
Nobody outside of the basin would understand the sounds of Sunday, but our local radio station turns over and plays Mormon tabernacle music all day.
All of Sunday.
All of Sunday. And it's called The Sounds of Sunday. So the Sounds of Sunday with our Lord and Savior, David Parker Ray.
And sadomasochistic say unto thee. Dig a hole and deliver thine seed unto Mother Earth. Amen.
Amen. That was so funny.
Oh, man. And if you guys don't know that joke, get on Twitter. Get
Yeah.
on the Facebook group. You'll get it.
You'll find the picture.
I know.
We were talking about there's a thing called ecosexual now.
Oh,
where
my
it's-
God. So, yeah, they posted, they being, I think it was Milo Yiannopoulos or something,
Yeah.
had posted an article from a group of ecosexuals who said that having sex with the earth is how we're going to save Mother Earth. And that men need to deliver their seed into Mother Earth, and that women also need to, like, I don't know, like somehow rub your energy into things. And I guess that includes like dry humping bark. I don't know, dude.
But, you know, if you remember back, David Parker Ray was doing that back when he was 15.
And he wasn't even trying to save Mother Earth. He was just trying to get his rocks off.
Yeah, he was just having a good time. Fast and dreaming about raping bitches.
Oh my God.
So,
Ecosexuals. Yeah, right. I guess, I mean, if they're not hurting anybody else, just let them do what they're going to do. But I'm not trying to go outside and rub my cooter on a fucking river rock. Sorry.
let me put my energy in on this stone. DJ.
Remix. All right. So, welcome back. Let's recap really quick.
Yeah, so we learned about David's early life. His grandpa was kind of an asshole. You know, his dad was an asshole. Whatever. We learned a little bit about Cindy Hindi and her
Fucked
fuckery
up childhood.
childhood.
Oh my.
And we learned a little bit about Roy Yancey,
Yeah, that creepy little fucker.
who was flipping over stones and spray painting them, trying to be a little badass. But he was not. We also know that Cindy Vihil, oh, I got it right,
Ah, see. Cindy Vahil.
had escaped David Parker Ray and Cindy Hindi on March 22nd of 1999. And we know that they were arrested and that their bail was set at $1 million each. That was a big breath.
It kind of looks like that scene from Ace Ventura where he like,
Where he's about to
Yeah.
rattle off. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. And as they started uncovering all of the torture items, drawings, tape, and etc., he had it both in his house and in the toy box. So that's kind of where we left off last week, and we played some of his audio. And all of the audio that we played, that was the voice from my husband, was the audio that David Parker Ray played for all of his victims.
right.
And they were all broke up. You can go and you can listen to a full thing on YouTube, but some of the audio that I have found and that we have had Quinn do is from separate audio tapes that weren't released or you can't find on YouTube. You can only find them through, you can go through and you can read Slow Death by Jim Fields, and the other one was Cries in the Desert, and I forget the author of that one because I didn't really read that book. I just kind of skimmed.
Just thumbed through it.
Yeah. Anyways, so we know that Cindy's told the story of, well, we don't. You're going to know that when she was talking about how she got captured, this was how. Is that a pimp that she was working under,
Yeah.
something, directed Cindy towards the RV, and in the RV was where David Parker Ray and Cindy Hindi were at.
Right.
And saying, and this was on March 20th, and they were saying, you know, your services are needed by this couple over here.
Right.
So
but
go.
when she walked into the RV, David Parker Ray, who was kind of like known for pretending to be a law officer, flipped out a fucking badge
Yeah.
and was like,
You're under arrest.
this is how this is going to fucking go.
For illegal prostitution. And so they ended up handcuffing her to some sort of fixture that was in the camper, and they threatened to electrocute her if she resisted. And then from there, they took off all of her clothes, and they took her back to his house.
Yes.
And we know from a little bit in last episode, if you remember, she was never brought into the toy box. All
No.
of her torture and everything that happened within the home.
Right.
And David liked to keep them in the home for the first couple of days so he can kind of feel his
Like, yeah,
victims
like
out
get an idea of where they are and how compliant they're going to be and like what he can actually like do. Now, if you guys remember from episode 1, he also talks about how he has to like pre-stretch and pre-work.
a girl
A girl
taking him
before-
to the cult.
Right. So I don't know. Maybe that was part of that process. Maybe he wanted to get his kicks in before he actually turned her over to the cult, or
keep her kind of close to, because I'm sure the first couple of days for him is very exciting after capturing somebody.
Right.
And he probably doesn't want to put her in a separate area just yet.
No.
He has to get his kind of feel.
Like get the
and
thrill,
then everything else is just feeding that urge of needing to torture, but he doesn't have to like live, eat, and breathe her presence.
Right.
Would be my guess. I don't know. I'm not the sick fucker.
This is where speculations. So anyway, basically one of the things that they would do is like they would take him out to the toy box on the third day, but up until then, something that David Parker Ray really enjoyed was electrocuting people. Mm-hmm. And he would actually do this to Cindy Vahil, where he would hook her up by her nipples and shock her that way.
Right, because in another audio tape that I don't think, we're not going to play that one. I didn't write it down. But in another part when he's talking to his victims, he says, now at the end of this video, I'm going to hook you up and I'm going to ask you some questions and you need to answer honestly. Like things of if she has an STD, what kind of drug she's addicted to, you know, how old she is, if she's had kids, those kind of questions. And so he would ask those questions, and if a woman didn't answer quick enough, or if she answered it a way that he felt wasn't truthful, he would shock him.
I like the hand motions that you're making right now, because she's like she's
my little fingers.
She's holding her hands up like she's zapping somebody's teats. So awful.
Anyways, during the time with Cindy Vahil, is as she was being questioned, David is the one that's shocking her, but Cindy Hendy is keeping a gun on her at all times.
Right. And didn't Cindy Hendy keep a weapon with her like most of the time?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, pretty much any time she was in the room with the victim, she usually had a weapon.
So I wonder if that was just like their failsafe. So like if something gangster did go down, that they needed like immediate disposal of a woman, or what?
Maybe. Or it may just be that David Parker Ray was terrifying enough on his own that he didn't have to have anything. Oh. But she's a woman.
Right.
And so there could be, if she didn't have anything, there could be a kind of like, maybe I can talk to this woman and maybe she's here against her will as well.
And
we can do whatever. So for Cindy to kind of prove how much of a piece of shit she was.
How fucking freaky deaky she was.
And to make sure that they were equally terrified of her, maybe that's...
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. But after having her nipples thoroughly shocked, which, fuck you.
Right.
She would actually be strung up on the, like, by her arms, strung up to the ceiling, and she would be whipped and raped with metal dildos and forced to look through photos of other victims and, like, see what was about to happen to her.
Yeah, which just cements in on how truly terrifying he was.
Right.
Because not only is he going to shock you and do all these horrible things to you anyways, he's also going to show you what he's done to other people to kind of cement that in.
Do you think that's the terror factor to like ramp that up? Because that would scare the shit out of me.
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
if like all of those things were happening to me, I'd be fucking terrified anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But then if he started like pulling out photos and being like, and this is the devil's dick. But no, like if I started seeing like the things that had happened to other women, like that would definitely ramp up one of two things. I would either become like physically ill and shit myself, or I'd probably just like pass out from like sheer terror.
Well, and if you think about it, even now, you can look through some crime scene photos, especially if a victim's body is still in the photos, kind of like with Jodi Arias. And there was another one that I had looked up, and I'm going to have to ask, because I think Lindsay had sent it to me. This was a while ago. I can't remember, but it was a couple who killed the girlfriend's boyfriend. So it was a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and then this other dude. Well, this other dude and the girlfriend decided to kill the boyfriend, and it went over the course of like 3 days where they would chop off pieces of him and like masturbate with it.
Whoa.
And they stuck like his toe in his head after they decapitated him. Like, it was disgusting. So if you think about even looking through some of those crime scene photos, things like that, you kind of get that kind of like uneasy wanting to puke, and you're like, that's fucking terrifying, and nothing's even happening to you. So to be in that position and being shown shit, you're like,
that, yeah. That video that was circulating of that guy up in Canada. Remember how he had like brought that Chinese, he was Asian, and I'm sorry, he may have not been Chinese, Japanese, Asian, I can't remember. But he brought the kid
Magnotta.
in. Huh?
Luca Magnotta.
Yes. That fucking freak where he actually like brought him in, drugged him, killed him somehow. And
Ice
then
pick. Ice pick.
Was it, but the guy never moved. Like that his victim never moved while he was like being stabbed. And so,
Well, he was super tied down.
right, but you would think you'd at least see him like wiggle or something.
He moves a tiny bit, but I don't.
So I'm wondering like if he was like super fucked up, like if he'd been drugged, like some GHB and a little bit of vodka or something
Yeah,
that
I think
just
he
like
was really drunk.
yeah, like and then he just started like cutting chunks off the body. That made my ass quiver. Like I was immediately like, "Well, this just fucking went way south."
Yeah, especially with the music that's played during it.
Oh, I know.
I was like, thanks a lot, Creep Factor. And you know, I finally realized who he looks like, who Luca Magnotta looks like. He looks a little bit like Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh my god, he kind of does a little
I think it's that frosted
tipped hair
thing.
I don't know.
Anyways.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
So yeah, that's fucking terrifying to to look at something, but especially in the throes of being tortured yourself.
You're seeing these things as well.
And I'm sure he's also showing worst case scenarios of things to make sure, because he wants to make sure that the person stays quiet.
Well, and he likes them scared. Like that's half the fucking thrill for him.
Oh yeah.
Is like for them A, to hurt, and B, for them to be fucking terrified.
Yeah, if it doesn't hurt and they're not scared, he's like, well,
Oh fuck, I guess we just take this one back. It's defective.
right? He's like, I
God.
baked this cake and you don't even want to have it.
I know. God. So moving forward, we also know that March 27, 1999 is when Angie Montano steps forward with her story. And her torture was the same. However, Angie actually stayed for 5 days. Now, it was known that she was also a sex worker and a drug addict. And she would say that she had been there from like February 27th, or no, excuse me, 17th to like the 21st.
Right.
And she would go on to say that she was deciding to bake her boyfriend a cake. Speaking of cakes.
Speaking of finger quotes.
Bake a cake. And that she needed a finger quote cake mix from Cindy Hendy. And that's why she would actually go to that RV was because she needed a cake mix.
And Cindy Hendy was a drug dealer. And so that cake mix, yeah, they both may have been white and powdery, but they're of different substances.
Of course. I like the code words. So she goes over there. She hops into the RV and to get her cake mix. And there stands David Parker Ray, and he's got a knife.
Right. And he holds it to her throat, and that's pretty much the rest of how she was taken.
Right.
Because she didn't know that David Parker Ray was going to be there. So she just thought it was Cindy Hendy. So she shows up, she thinks everything's fine, then out pops fucking string bean with eyeballs with
a fucking sharp knife.
Right. And then she was taken to their house where she was bound, gagged, blindfolded, and the metal collar was put on. And she listened to the opening video of all the audio that he played. And then after a couple of days, she was told she was going... David Parker Ray used to call the toy box his play box.
Okay.
In the beginning. And then I think it transferred
over to toy box.
Right. But first, David Parker Ray showed her videos of the torture that had already happened to previous victims, so she knew what was going to happen to her.
Right.
So again, there's that, let's add extra fear.
Right. We'll just ramp it up.
Which makes me wonder if the people that made the movie Saw, if they ever looked into this case at all.
Maybe.
Because you have the weird audio that you wake up to, or that you're being played of what's going to happen, why you've been taken, whatever. And then
maybe they did. Maybe that's where they got a little bit of their inspiration.
That's what I've thought when I was starting to research. I was like,
But the methods of torture and shit weren't sexual.
Right.
But yeah, I could see that.
And maybe toy box, and then you have little fucking Billy doll, which is a toy, which is creepy.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's my own.
I think we should dress one of your children up as Billy for Halloween.
I think the youngest would be fun.
Can he ride a scooter yet?
Maybe not. Okay, we'll have the middle.
Okay, we'll do it to 10?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Halloween's gonna be awesome this year.
I know, dude. I wish my kids would still let me, dress them.
They should. We should do, a big
because I want to make Logan, because my son, who is 15, is almost 6'6" and he's very skinny. So I want to make him Jack Skellington. And then I can take Paigey Poo and turn her into something. I can't make her into Sally because she won't let me.
No, but I don't know.
I kind of want to make her like the, do you remember the movie 13 Ghosts?
Oh, I fucking love that movie. The dead chick?
I either want to make her be the jackal or the torn princess.
Yes,
the angry princess.
13 Ghosts.
Me
It's
too.
one of my favorites.
And you know what? I made my kids watch it and they were like, it's all right. That movie still scares the ever-loving shit out of me. Like,
too.
I have to be really careful about going to get into bed and make sure nothing's in the way, because when I hit the light, I run and jump into bed.
Oh, yeah. I
just know the jackal's underneath there.
I love that movie so much. Anyways, okay.
Sorry, back to the ranch.
Right. We also know how much they love to do shock therapy and
Therapy. Yeah.
Therapy. And Angie would talk about when she was being shocked, David Parker Ray and Cindy Hindi would almost make oohs and ahs like it was...
Kind of like it was fireworks or some kind of art display where they were like, ooh
look at the way she squirms.
Look at the way the smoke ripples off her nipples.
Oh, gross.
Fuck.
Yeah. And so after a couple of days, Cindy Hindi leaves her work and Angie uses this as a window of opportunity.
Right, because she decides that she's going to start smooth talking David Parker Ray.
Right.
And if you guys remember from some of our previous audio, he had actually said that, like, you're going to beg, you're going to try, and no ploy has ever fucking worked.
Right.
Well,
I wonder what your...
Yeah, I wonder what yours is going to be. Except for hers fucking did.
Yeah.
So...
Which is weird. Because before, Cindy and Angie were already friends. And I'm assuming it was a friendship based upon...
Drug use.
Drugs. Right. And after she talks with David for a little while and, says, I won't tell anybody, we can still be friends.
Yeah, because he was like, if I had known how sweet you were, but like beforehand, I wouldn't have let this happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let Cindy.
He's like, I think we could have been friends. And she's like, we still can be.
Yeah. And so he releases her.
Yeah, she's like, I'll go far, far away. Like, I won't say anything to anybody. And so he does. He lets her go.
Yeah, and she goes over like 100 miles away and makes her way back into Truth or Consequences. So it looked like she had gone on some sort of trip or...
Well, she was honoring what she said. Like,
right.
I'll go away. I won't say anything.
Right.
So 100 miles, she like hitches her way back.
Yep.
And goes, excuse me, I'm getting over an illness.
Yes.
And so I'm clearing my throat a lot. I apologize. So anyway, she thumbs her way back and she's eventually picked up by a cop. So she immediately is like, Cindy Hendy, David Parker Ray, metal dildos, shocky shock, help.
Yeah.
And the cop is like, yeah, right.
I think you're lying a little bit.
And it may have been part of that problem where people were like, but he's such a sweet old man.
Yeah, he's
like,
a sweet old man. You're known for prostitution and
drugs.
use.
Like, come on. Oh, what happened? Did he like...
And it sounds so far-fetched that it wasn't even in
Right.
the realm of
Possibility.
possibilities to think that could be true.
Which is so bizarre now because of all the things that you hear in the media and shit, if somebody were to hop into a policeman's car and be like, here are their names, this is what they do, that cop would take her to like protective custody and then head straight over there with like backup to check it out.
Yeah, well, especially because you know that she's going to have bruises. You know that she
would have
has
burn marks or
markings.
something, you know what I mean? So like...
Right. Well, and then she even went home to her boyfriend and told the boyfriend the same thing, and he also
didn't
didn't believe her
her.
until the next month when Cindy Vahil escaped and it was all over the news. And then that's when the boyfriend was like, fuck. I am a bad boyfriend.
Like, I don't even know. How would you even make up for that? Mm-hmm. How would you make up for that?
Right. But the one sad thing is even after Angie steps forward, everybody within Truth or Consequences still just thought that she was trying to grab for attention.
Like a 15 minutes of fame.
Mm-hmm. They would
thing.
even say, quote, just another hooker supporting her habits.
People are fuckholes.
They really are.
I don't care who the person is. I don't care what they do. Unless they're a rapist, murderer, or child molester, they don't deserve to be beaten, raped, tortured. And even then, who the fuck am I to say?
Right.
Like, that's just my personal opinion.
And I know that when a case breaks and if there's a lot of publicity, that a lot of people will step forward as like a catch of, oh, well, I think, this happened to me too. Or you can see it in any small town and it doesn't even have to be something big like this. Say, for instance, somebody dies in town, especially like a younger person.
Right.
All of a sudden, everybody in fucking town knows him.
Oh, yeah,
had
they
a
were my best
personal
friend.
relationship.
We went and hung out all the time. Take
doing
several
this?
fucking seats. Matter of fact, go sit in the fucking back.
Right. So I think that's what people thought of Angie when it came to this case, is that she was just trying to get her own piece of the fucked up pie. Who
I don't
would
know.
want
I
that
don't.
pie? Who would want it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, who wants to jump up and down and be like, me, I was tortured.
No.
Unless, you know, and the only reason I would do that was because, like, where's my fucking justice?
Right, exactly. Nobody's going to spring up and say that they were tortured and be able to sit down without the information known, because all the information wasn't released into the public, and be able to sit down with police and be like, hey, this happened,
right.
this happened.
Like, I could tell you all of what's in there, like metal dog collar,
Well,
nipple
and I'm
shockies.
sure that they could go through the last month of videotapes
Oh my God.
and see it for themselves.
More things the FBI has that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why. I don't know why, guys.
I think,
Morbid curiosity gets the best of me.
yeah, well, I think it's part morbid curiosity, and I think there's still a part, and like many of our listeners said after part 1, that they're like, I had to pretend that this was a movie, that it wasn't real, that somebody wasn't capable of what
Of all
happened.
this shit?
Yeah, so part of me wants to see the actual tangible evidence for myself, because I think there's still a small
Why?
part.
Because you don't want to sleep anymore?
Right? I never want to sleep again. Ever. No, but I want to, there's still that small part of me that also wants to believe that it's not real.
Like it's, yeah.
And
like
I
it's
think
all made
that's
up.
a protection mechanism, you know?
Yeah, but you're going to take that all away if you see them tapes.
I know. And then,
See them tapes.
I feel like it's good to face reality, though.
In a way.
But I know I'll never get to see those tapes, because
Nope,
I can't
not
just
ever.
be like, I know that you said only 3 people can watch it, but I really, really want to. The FBI
Just
is not
march
going to be
yourself
like,
up to the front
"Okay."
doors of the FBI and be like, hey, I do a podcast. I feel like I'm strong enough to watch these. I'm going to need this and this and this.
Here's my Color Me Dead badge.
Just put it, laminate it, make it all pretty, put our wax seal on it, like flip it open. Color Me Dead podcast. Here to see the Toy Box Killer?
I have clearance. No, that's not going to happen.
No.
But now we're going to take a small little break for ourselves as we play you another audio.
If I killed every bitch that we kidnapped, there'd be bodies strung all over the country. And besides, I don't like killing a girl unless it's absolutely necessary. So I've devised a safe, alternate method of disposal. I had plenty of bitches to practice on over the years, so I've pretty well got it down pat, and I enjoy doing it. I get off on mind games. After we're completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They are both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto-hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestion. You are going to be kept drugged for a couple of days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you are not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure. You won't remember this place, us, or what happened to you. There won't be any DNA evidence because you will be bathed and both holes between your legs will be thoroughly flushed out. You'll be dressed, sedated, and turned loose on some county road, bruised, sore all over, but nothing that won't heal up in a week or two.
Mary.
Are you back?
I am back. So now that you guys have had an opportunity to listen to that audio, you know that in addition to being physically abused and tortured, you're also going to be mentally and emotionally tortured and
Right.
abused.
Yeah, he's gonna drug you up, and he's gonna play with your mind and try to muddle everything that had happened to you in the previous days. So
Right.
then you can't have enough of a story to pin it back on him.
Right.
Because
And well, and
everything's
he,
going to be foggy. You're not
Right.
going to remember it.
the dates, times, faces, that kind of thing, it's all going to be a blur. The only thing you are going to remember is like bits and pieces of what actually happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he goes in and he talks about like there won't be any DNA evidence because they're going to wash out both your holes really well.
And turn you loose on some country road.
Yeah.
And he'll put like clean clothes on you and shit at least.
Well, at least there's that.
Yeah.
You're not just going to let him wander around fucking nude.
But it makes you have to sit back and wonder how many trial and errors it took to get to that point. The right.
I don't know, dude. He was working with some pretty serious fucking drugs.
Right. That's what I mean. How many times did he fuck up?
Phenobarbital? Really? Like that's...
Yeah. You know that there's a lot of people that didn't make it through his little
Experiments.
experiments to be able to get to the point where he knows the dosage just right, what to say, what to do, how to get rid of every DNA evidence. Like,
What are you using to clean people? Like,
Right.
this is some 1940s shit and he's douching him with Lysol? Fuck.
I don't know.
God.
I don't know. But I mean, that's tedious because I'm sure you got to clean fingernails and
Oh, everything.
all the things.
All the things.
All the things.
Like
and make sure there's
the
no
mouth,
fibers.
the nails. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Once you leave, like no fibers on the clothes or anything like that could be traced back.
I don't know.
And this is why a lot of people, and I'm going to say this and it's going to sound fucked up, but you'll know what I mean. A lot of people don't give David Parker Ray credit as a serial killer or whatever. Sometimes when you mention David Parker Ray or the toy box, people go, he wasn't that big of a deal. He didn't even kill anybody.
Well, we
That's
don't
because
know
we
that.
haven't found
Right.
anybody. That doesn't mean he didn't kill anybody. That
yeah,
just
we
means
just-
that he was good at what he did.
Exactly.
And not to mention the torture and the bullshit that he did do makes him enough of a monster that people should
Right.
take him serious. I personally am way more afraid of David Parker Ray than I am of Ted Bundy,
Right.
in my opinion.
I
But
would
I'm
be-
also not Teddy's type, so
And
maybe that's it too. I don't know.
you're funny. I'm not Teddy's type.
I'm not.
So,
Anyways,
so April 1st, the FBI is looking through countless videotapes. Now, this is taking place, directly after Cindy Hill gets away and comes forward and is like, these two fucksticks over here. And they pick him up. They put him on that $1 million bond.
yeah, and Angie comes forward and is like, hey, me too.
Also,
And then they have all these videos, and they're like, well, all these videos don't belong to just these two women. So now we got to look through them and try
Right.
to see if we can identify.
so they're going through countless videotapes, just hours and hours, trying to like possibly identify some of the people that you see in here. So in one particular video, they see David Parker Ray is like playing doctor, fucking ew, with a victim. And they look and they see that she's got a swan tattoo on her ankle. And so they take that and they like send it out to the media. And they're like, hey, does anybody know of any female between the ages of 18 and 35
Between this date and this date.
that maybe went missing, but also have this tattoo? And they put the tattoo on air and they start getting hits. Like, little did they know, it fucking worked.
Right, like immediately is when a lady named Janet Murphy, she calls the number provided and says that how her ex-daughter-in-law went missing for 3 days back in 1996, and the tattoo was hers, and that her name was Kelly Van Cleve.
And this one is actually this one makes me really super sad.
Yeah, it blew my mind because as we read through and as he says, I'm going to drug you and you're not going to remember a thing. Even when researching, when I first heard about this case years ago, I was like, yeah, that's bullshit. I don't necessarily believe that. But then you come to Kelly Van Cleve and you realize his methods fucking worked.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me the goosebumps.
I see that.
Even thinking about it.
See, and I've had to have so many surgeries where I'm put under anesthetic and they use some pretty sketchy shit to put you out.
Well, yeah.
I don't remember going down for some of my surgeries. Like, I remember going in and then putting shit in my IV and that's it. I don't remember like being wheeled out of surgery or going through like the recovery stages, clear up until I'm staring at my husband and he's like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, get the fuck out of my face. That's what you can do. Give me some water, because I'm not a nice girl when I come out of anesthetic. And I have no fucking idea. So when he says, I've got this way, you know what I mean? I'm gonna turn everything into a mushy bowl of oatmeal in your head. You won't recall a fucking thing.
Yeah, especially where he would do it over the course of a day or two before releasing you.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Excuse me.
Kelly Van Cleve actually married a military man by the name of Patrick, who was home on leave from the Navy. Now, they had known each other for about 6 weeks before this incident happened in July of 1996. They were living with Janet at the time, and the night before Kelly would go missing, her and Patrick would actually have a big fight over sexual issues. And come to find out later, it was noted that Kelly had a tilted uterus, but not only that, because a lot of women have tilted uteruses. It also, she had a collapsed vagina.
Right.
So her uterus had tilted back so far that it had put so much pressure on like the cervix and everything else that it kind of collapsed
it.
everything. And it had created a lot of sexual tensions and frustrations because it was physically painful for her to have sex with Patrick.
Right. And, you know, they're newlywed couples. So,
Right.
of course, Patrick's going to think we're going to be boning all the time.
Right.
And she would end up crying, or she would say that she just couldn't because it hurt so bad. And so that night they got into a very heated argument about it because
Right.
his feel-goods were hurt. Her feel-goods were hurt. And they just didn't know because Kelly didn't know about her condition until later.
Right.
However, it is those things that is probably the only thing that actually saved her.
Right. Because so she would actually end up leaving the house that night.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, you know, blow off steam, get away from Patrick. You know, things are obviously like tense in the fucking house. So she bails.
Mm-hmm.
And she decides to go out. Now, she wasn't a drinker and she didn't really do drugs. And in fact, that night, she had actually agreed to be the DD for some other friends.
Well, I think I got my stuff mixed up in my notes because I know they fought that night and I think she may have slept on the couch that night. And then early the next morning, she went to her mother-in-law and said, I'm going to go out for a little while. Because most of the stuff was all the events of the day that she was, or the night that she was taken. The events that day was a lot of hanging out with friends who like to day drink. And so she was gone all day. And then that night when she was ready to come home is then when it happens, is when she's taken.
Because didn't she, if I'm remembering correctly, she had actually agreed to take a ride from Jessie Ray.
Yes. And Jessie Ray is David's daughter.
Right.
And yeah, she was hanging out with everybody. They did drugs, they drank, but she never did, which apparently is kind of a rarity in Truth or Consequences.
Small town mentality, you know what I mean? Boredom will get the best of you.
Right. Well, you know, and it's rare to find one person that will hang out with a bunch of people that are heavy drinkers or heavy drug users, but not be one themselves.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think it's only, that is kind of rare, but I also think it's only a matter of time before they like succumb to it. Even if you are like the fucking quote unquote good kid hanging out, it's not very long before you become one of the fucking pack.
Yeah. So most of the day she was the DD. And then I think she had like one drink at the end of the night. And it was at that point where Jessie had said, I'll give you a ride home on my motorcycle. Because Jessie had a motorcycle and that's what she was a bad bitch.
Okay.
In every sense of the word.
She's a fucking bad something.
Yeah. And so it was at that point that she had said that she accepted the ride from Jessie.
Right. And then she would actually wake up in a place that she didn't know where she was.
Mm-hmm.
So she wakes up in a place where she doesn't know where she is. Okay. Completely bewildered.
I'm sure she got the audio tape. She probably
sure.
saw some videos. Like
sure.
what happened to the other two.
She would then be tortured and raped repeatedly. However, David Parker Ray could never get the dildos to go in no matter how hard he tried. So he decides to drug her up and actually drop her off at Janet's house. So this is where her condition actually kind of saved her in a way because no matter what he did, and God only knows how hard he fucking tried, which is the gut-wrenching part. Mm-hmm. He's like, fuck it, drugs her up, drops her off, bounces.
Right. And we'll talk a little bit more about it, I think, in part 3. But in the video where it shows Kelly, she's strapped down and there isn't sound in the video, but you see David Parker Ray, he's going up and down her body, feeling her, you know, like grabbing her boob, fingering her, whatever, trying to put dildos in. And you can tell that he's like part frustrated, but part confused as to why it's not going in. So he kind of takes a break. You kind of see her move a little bit, but you can't tell if she's moving in pain, if she's laughing, or if she's screaming, or if she's moving in like a pleasurable way because there isn't that sound. And unfortunately, those kind of things were used against her when it comes to her trial and how they would try to get David off on his charges, which is just fucked up. But in that video, that's kind of how it is. So if you can set the scene, you see somebody laid out on a table. You see David Parker Ray, who almost looks like he's caressing her in a more gentle pattern as he's trying to get a feel for her body as a whole. And then seeing him try to do something, pulls it out like he can't, trying again, pulls it out like he can't, sets it aside, fills her up some more. So it's hard to tell between if it's a consensual S&M thing,
right,
or if it's really torture, which is just it's fucked up. And when we get into the trial, I'm going to be stuttering a lot because I'm going to get so mad.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're going to end up sounding like me. Mm-hmm. So now, while Kelly was actually missing, it went from like panic to anger.
Yeah.
For both Janet and Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
So his newlywed wife has gone, and they're like, oh shit, can't find her, can't find her. You know, keep in mind that she said she would go out and then she doesn't return. You know, this is before cell phones and shit. Pagers were like new. So
they go out and they're trying to find her, and then they can't find her. So then when they can't find her, Patrick gets pissed. He's like, fuck it, she just left me, type of thing. This marriage is new. You also had Janet, who was telling Patrick, you guys have only been together 6 weeks.
right.
You know, it's probably nothing bad that happened. It's probably just the end of the relationship. So then it goes from being worried about his wife to then being fucking bitter.
Mad, yeah. And I'm sure that those were like feelings that they would severely regret later, because I think Janet actually talked about how badly she felt knowing what had actually happened later.
Right. And Patrick, when we get into part 3 and the trial for Kelly, Patrick breaks down more than once, realizing what had actually happened to her. So now Patrick's upset. He's getting ready. He's like, fuck it, I'm just going to file for a divorce. When all of a sudden, here comes sweet old David Parker Ray.
And he's got little Kelly Van Cleve.
Yeah, but she was still disgusting. Like, she was filthy. She was dirty. And that is something that was completely not like Kelly. She was known to take 2 to 3 showers a day.
Well, they said that she was a clean freak, like in a couple different things, that she was always clean, pressed, fresh dress.
So here comes Kelly, seeming like she's on some sort of drug, which she doesn't take. She's dirty. She's just left for a few days. She comes back. She's a totally different person. And she's trying to kind of talk to him a little bit, and they're not having it.
No, they like booted her out of the house, wouldn't even let her come in to get like a fucking toothbrush.
Yeah, no toothbrush. You can't get any of your shit. We're going to file for a divorce. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they were mean to her when they showed up, and they almost thanked David in a way. Like, thanks for dropping her off. He said that he found her on the beach by the lake shore.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just doing his little duty.
Fucking civic duty of being a good guy. Fuck.
Yeah. So she actually had to leave with David Parker Ray. They would not let her get into the home. And so she had to get back into the vehicle with the person that just spent days fucking torturing her. And then he ended up dropping her off at somebody else's house for a day or two until Kelly could get her shit together mentally and to be able to go back to the home where Patrick and Janet were so she could actually get her shit. But that would be so fucking terrifying to be dropped off by the person.
But did she even know? Did she even remember? Was she that fucked up on phenobarbital and sodium pentanol that she just was like, whatever?
She may not have known, but I know.
Right.
And that fucks with me.
So Patrick did file for a divorce then?
Yeah, they did. She ended up coming back a couple of days later to get her items, and Patrick and Kelly end up getting a divorce. And a little while later, they tried to rekindle their relationship, but it just didn't work out. And so then it officially ended. And she was being plagued by nightmares, and she couldn't explain it, and he never believed her. She would say things like, I think these things happened to me. All of a sudden, she had this weird heightened fear of Jesse and of David Parker Ray. She was terrified of them. But she couldn't explain
why.
And he was like, you shouldn't be scared of him. He's the one that dropped you off. He's the one that, found you. And she couldn't explain it. He didn't believe her. And that was kind of like the final ending.
Well, because apparently he thought she was like fibbing.
Yeah. And so while Janet's on the phone with the FBI, that's where she breaks down and starts sobbing as she was telling this story. And she had also stated that Kelly ended up moving to Colorado because she didn't feel safe in Truth or Consequences anymore. So these whole time, that's 3 years basically, because she was abducted in 96, they were caught in 99.
Right.
This whole time, Patrick and Janet thought that Kelly was full of shit.
That she just went out, got fucked up, too fucked up for her own good, and then was like mysteriously found at the lake on the beach, and
that
DVR
she never carried about Patrick or carried about him.
Carried? Wow. Narrate. Try again.
That she never cared about Patrick. And so they had all these feelings of resentment. So as soon as there was
Concrete
a tattoo,
proof, yeah,
you know, and the
that she
FBI is like,
actually-
we need to find this person.
And then Janet sees it and she's like, oh, fuck.
Hit with that reality.
Yeah. That you're a giant butthole.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you would, in my estimation, if I went out and came home just completely destroyed, dirty, filthy, so fucked up I couldn't remember like where I'd been, what I'd been doing, who I'd been with, that kind of thing. Don't you think your husband would look at you and be like, what the fuck? Call the police.
Well, I know that would be the case for us, but if you're only in a relationship with somebody for less than 2 months,
I don't know.
It's kind of hard to tell, especially where you're accusing, you have this weird fear of the person who was a very nice man.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I guess maybe that's just the true crimer in me that I'm like, that looks fucking fishy. Mm-hmm. But to me, it does feel fishy. Like, why would you be afraid of that person? Why are you afraid? I don't know. I just fucking am.
He gives me the Rifkins.
He gives me the Rifkins. You're right. Yeah. So I guess to me, that would be kind of...
Right. But we're not normal people.
It's true.
Well, we have an unhealthy relationship of knowledge on these things.
It's true.
So everything is suspicious to me.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Yeah.
So then they have to make a very uncomfortable phone call to Kelly Van Cleve, who 3 years later, she's been struggling with these terrible nightmares. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine because your subconscious will always hold on to those things.
Oh, yeah.
So she's been having these horrifying nightmares and night terrors about things that took place
in Truth or Consequences.
Right.
That she could never pinpoint what it was. And she never went to anybody about it because she didn't think any of it was necessarily real.
Right.
And so you can't really go to police and say, hey.
Like, hey, I'm having a bunch of bad dreams.
And
about
this guy gives me the creeps. I need you to look into it.
Haha.
Right. Not
gonna but it was so bad that she wouldn't even go shower unless there was somebody there to protect her.
Right.
So obviously there was something somewhere that stuck in the gray matter.
Yeah, whatever happened to her, and she couldn't explain what happened to her, so she was never able to try to recover from it. You know what I mean? She was never able to get that healing notion. She was just all of a sudden she went from being okay to now she can't even be alone in a room without losing her mind. And so she struggled with her day-to-day life obviously, but what she thought were just horrifying nightmares were actually flashbacks to the toy box. Right. And so go ahead.
Oh no.
Oh, okay. So, after the FBI calls her and they ask her a bunch of different questions, and she does confirm that she has a swan tattoo on the right ankle, on the correct ankle. I can't remember which ankle it is, so it wasn't, when I said right, I meant correct. Anyways. They decided to head to Craig, Colorado, which Craig is not far from where we are.
No, not at all.
We go to Craig all the time. And that's where they actually go to have an actual interview with her. And I can't imagine.
Didn't she have to watch the video? Mm-hmm. Confirm without a doubt, that was me.
Yeah. Well, and the FBI is basically sitting down and explaining to her the things that happened to her. And she's like, oh, fuck. So those weren't nightmares. Those things actually fucking happened to me. The job that the FBI had to do to go and talk to her and tell somebody about the horrors that they faced, my brain, my little hamster is trying to run with that thought. And
you've got the two hamsters and one's running faster than the other and spins the other one out of the wheel?
Yep, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, how would you like to do that? No, go thanks. Sit down and be like, oh, hey, by the way, you have to watch this video right here and tell me that that's you. Mm-hmm. And she sees the tattoo and she's like, that is me. Those are my legs. That is, those are my parts.
Yeah.
And then watch all the things.
Yeah. And say that, yes, I do know who Roy Yancey is and who Jesse Ray is. I know both of those people. And I was with them the last time I remember.
The last time I was coherent.
Yeah. I remember going for a ride back to my house and then
never got there.
Not. So she does remember in the recesses of her mind, she remembers David Parker Ray saying stuff that the cult had an eye on her for quite a while, that they were interested in her. However, because of all of her issues, she just wasn't good for the good sex, so she could offer the cult nothing. So that's why he released her, so he could get somebody that would be more viable for his cult practices.
So she doesn't remember much, but that's the piece she does, like, recall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's what one of those, when you have one of those vivid nightmares and you can remember something that is said within it, that was one of the things that always stuck with her within her nightmares. And the person's house that she was dropped off with, that was Dave Connolly, apparently, was the friend that ended up letting her stay at his house for a little bit while she tried to come down off of all of the drugs that she was given.
Okay.
And what's really sad is during the interview, when the police are talking to her, she's confirming things that she can remember. She's kind of talking about everything. She starts breaking down and she starts crying because she feels guilty. Like, maybe if I would have stepped forward earlier, even though I didn't believe anything that I was dreaming was real, if I would have stepped forward, how many women could I have saved?
Right. So, like, survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it really sucks that people feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was nothing that she could have done. She can't go to the police office and be like, hey, I'm creeped out from that girl and that guy, and he's the one that dropped me off after I got found on my mysterious fucking magical bus trip.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I was on all of these drugs. I don't really remember anything, but I have these horrible nightmares, and I can remember this. That's not
enough.
It's not, and nobody would have taken that seriously.
Well, especially when you have David Parker Ray, who's squeaky clean.
Right.
Like, he has nothing. He has no record. So,
it's hard to, well, and I guess me being the person that I am, you would look at somebody that everybody has classified somebody as like a nice old man. He's squeaky clean. He has no record. Why the fuck is he hanging out with Cindy Hendy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, and some people would say that they felt that Cindy Hendy and Roy Yancey, who everybody in town knew was a piece of shit, was kind of taking advantage of David Parker Ray. Like, he was like a sweet old man who was just lonely and wanted to help people out type of thing. I don't know. But anyways, so now we're going to kind of move into Cindy Hendy versus David Parker Ray. Kind of what happens as they're interviewing the two of them after they've both been captured.
right. Because at this point, Patricia Rust, the initial investigator, has committed suicide. And now they have Angie Montano, who has stepped forward. They have Cindy Vahil, and now they have Kelly Van Cleve.
Right. And there was over 1,500 pieces of evidence that they had seized, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And people are coming forward with the quickness to say anything and everything that they can about Roy Yancey and Cindy Hendy and David Parker Ray. Well, specifically Cindy Hendy and David Parker Ray, but names like Roy Yancey and Jesse Ray were also thrown in the mix.
Right.
And the police are also, they're trying to talk to them for other women in the videos or pictures. So they're trying to interrogate them and being like, who is this? Who is this victim? Where are they? And they're not really getting anywhere with it. And by this point, Cindy is facing a total of 25 felony counts. However, they said if you squeal on Ray, basically, we'll reduce it from 25 counts to just 5 counts. So for her, that's a pretty good deal.
Dude, that's an offer you can't refuse.
No, you're getting 20 fucking felony counts chopped off of your sentence.
For real.
So she pleaded guilty on 2 counts of first-degree kidnapping for Angie Montano and Cindy Vahil, and 2 counts of second-degree sexual penetration, and 1 count of second-degree conspiracy to commit kidnapping. So those were the 5 that she ended up with.
So in return, she fucking spills the beans on David Parker Ray. And of course, Jim Yance, who's the guy who is now taken over the investigation since Patricia has killed herself.
He's the prosecutor.
He wants her to like undergo a 60-day psych evaluation because the last thing he needs is for her to be like, reason of insanity, I was doing a bunch of drugs, or...
Right. He wants to make sure that it's like as
concrete.
tight and as concrete as he can possibly get it.
Right.
Which was good on his end. And so Cindy would try to say at first that she only knew David Parker Ray for 8 months, which we all know is bullshit because she came in 97.
Right.
And this was 98. But that she had
99.
said, or 99, sorry. I don't know why I said 98. But that Cindy was saying that David Parker Ray had killed both men and women. that she knew he had actually killed people. And there was at least 14 people that Cindy knew for herself in the time that they had known each other. Which, if you only knew him for 8 months and he's killed 14 people, that's a lot of people to go missing in a very short amount of time. You would think that that would have...
like, raised some red flags, but...
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't 8 months.
Didn't really raise any flags in fucking Jean Coral's case either.
Right,
So...
And the interesting thing is that Cindy had also said that one of the people that David Parker Ray had killed had been a previous boss. Now, if you remember back in part 1 where we said that his boss went missing
Right.
in 89. So it was before her time, but David Parker Ray had told her about the murder.
Right.
And she had said some are buried in ravines and they're in water. They're all over the place.
Yeah, she was like, some are buried in ravines, some are in like the arroyos, some are in some lakes. And she would actually go on to say that like the method in which he would sink bodies into the lake. Mm-hmm. So she would talk about how he would split them open, like from sternum to private parts or whatever, open them up, scoop out the guts, weight them down with like rocks or cemented weights, and then wrap the bodies back up in barbed wire to sink them into the lake.
Right. And he would take out all of the guts and everything, so then it wouldn't blow up the body. So none of the bodies would sink back to surf or sink back.
Sink back.
Wow,
Right.
That's kind of like unthaw.
Unthaw. How are you going to unthaw that? I'm just curious.
I'm just curious because
Sink back to the top.
To unthaw would be to refreeze it. Yeah.
I'm going to need you to unthaw that. Fucking what? That's irregardless. Get the fuck out of my house right now. We can't talk to each other anymore. Sink back to the top.
Do this.
So he would scoop out all the guts, which is part of the reason that the bodies would sit and bloat. You know what I mean? As the body starts to decompose and such.
So he at least knew some things. He had some methods, which makes me wonder where his very first kill is. Because nobody's that calculated on their first.
No. But they also, and this is one of the reasons that they thought he may have been responsible for the West Mesa body pit. But the timeline
Isn't the same.
It's kind of all fucked up.
Right. And she had also said there were lots of locations. Now, the one weird thing that kind of makes what she says more truthful is that in the toy box, there was a map on it. And on that map, there was a ton of X's. And a lot of the places where there were X's on the map were the exact same places where Cindy said that she knew where some bodies were located. So they think, fuck, we got evidence. We got some shit.
Right.
And so they end up going on a massive search.
A fucking disgusting true crime scavenger hunt, essentially.
And they end up finding a bag of bones, and some of them were just animal bones, but one bag was actually human remains. And it took a while to get the testing back. You know, they go through, and that's where they're finding all the other evidence. That's where,
right.
You know, it's during a process. However, when they were testing it, it was so degraded that they couldn't even distinguish if it was male or female. They knew that it was human, but beyond that, that was it.
Yeah. So there's nothing there to tie that back to DPR.
Nothing. And they thought about draining the lake, but they knew that they couldn't. And
like
they also
the time and effort and the money that was put into that, because I think it was like Elephant Butte Lake or whatever, had been there since 1912.
Yeah, when they built the dam and they had the lake.
How many people drowned in that motherfucker and never got back out? Or how many other murdered, like...
Yeah, they knew that hundreds by that point had either drowned or been murdered. And the lake is huge. It's 44 miles long and 44 and 44 miles wide.
Oh, 44 by 44.
And they just didn't have the time, money, or resources to be able to
drain it and dredge
on like
the lake
a hunch, because they don't know for sure.
Right.
So I'm sure. Guess who's never going? Well, guess who's never going to New Mexico? Anyways, that would be me. So
but who's never swimming in that fucking lake? Also me.
Also me. Never.
So, but then they actually found a body back in 1989 that matched that method of disposal.
Yeah.
So
because that body, they had found a male body with a gunshot wound to the head and he was bound in wire, but they were never able to identify him. So after Cindy was talking about one of Ray's bosses, they decided to go back through David's history, and that's where they think maybe we'll go back through, we'll see if anything matches up, and sure enough,
it did, because it was Billy Ray Bowers that had actually been missing from Arizona. And that boss is the one from Canal Motors that didn't get along with DPR.
Right.
And that was the disposal method. The disposal method.
You know, we may not have a lot of squirrel hunts and a lot of funniness because the things that we're covering right now are really
We had
serious.
a few in the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
serious and dark, but we will
church it up with some funny accents, I guess. Jesus.
still can't mouthificate.
So strange how a man is found in that state, and it's something that was described by Cindy Hendy that David Parker Ray did, and it was somebody that David Parker Ray knew and that had like a tumultuous like relationship. They didn't care for each other.
And David left his job in 1988, and he came and he had just moved into Truth or Consequences permanently in 1989. And so old boss hated him, ends up dead in the same state with the same crazy fucking person.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Cindy goes on to say later that Roy Yancey, who was David Parker Ray's like,
Little shadow.
yeah, little
pet,
whatever, they were always together, that they had murdered Roy Yancey's ex-girlfriend, and her name was Marie Parker, and this was back in 1997. And she was a mother who had been missing for 2 years. So she had been on their missing persons list. And in New Mexico, you can't persecute a person without a body or evidence connecting to a death.
And David Parker Ray knew that. Like, he even said that they would never ever find a body, and now almost 20 years later, he is right.
Yeah.
So you would have to think, at least I do, that with some of the shit he did and some of the like further down things we're going to talk about, there are bodies somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Where the fuck are they?
And who knows in how many different locations, too. I'm sure there's some in California when he was up growing weed. I'm sure there's more in Arizona. Because the one body that we know is Billy Bowers in 1989. And by that point, he was already...
well into his S&M.
Well, yeah, and his method of killing apparently was already... He knew what he was doing.
Right. I don't know, man. Because I don't think Cindy Hendy just all willy-nilly was like, oh, yeah, 14. Like, I think the timeline in which she gave was stupid because they knew that she had been involved with him for at least 2 years. But I think that the amount of rape, torture, and maybe drug overdoses, or like even something we'll talk about later. What if you tortured somebody too much? Yeah. And they fucking died.
Yeah. Well, and even in part 1, when they talk about in the cult, how in the past they've watched a girl bleed out before. Yeah. And nobody likes that.
And nobody likes that. So, but then where is she and who was that?
I don't know.
See, this is why I feel like more people should have tattoos. Because then at least
tattoos.
Yeah, dude. Like you
would know who I am.
It's true. I have a half sleeve on one arm. I'm working on a sleeve on another arm. There's tattoos on my back, tattoos on my feet.
I need to quit being so picky about who I have tattoo my skin so I can actually...
Just go see Clint. I'll take you.
I'm so fucking picky though, dude. I'm so picky. And the one person that I want to do it is my friend, but he lives in Oregon. So I just need to plan a trip.
You're right.
Going on a trip.
See, because I don't think I'll let anybody but Clint tattoo me from now on out. Like, I've had some tattoos that are like, meh. I've had some other tattoos that are like, meh. But, like, every tattoo he's ever done for me and every tattoo he's ever put on my husband have been exquisite. So I don't think I'll let anybody touch me other than him.
They're good. But I just love Jared Glassburn and all of his skills.
Yeah, so if you're a listener in Oregon, you can go see
Jared. Go see Jared Glassburn.
And if you're a listener in Utah or close by, you can go to Salt Lake Valley and go see Clint DeLacy at This Is the Place Tattoo.
See, we're just going to be dropping places.
Fucking name dropping.
Go and get some sort of identifying tattoo.
I know. Go. Even if you just get your fucking name and birth date tattooed like on the back of your neck or something. And somebody's like, that's fucking stupid. You'll be like, oh yeah, well it fucking saved a victim of David Parker Ray. Bitch. Just saying.
But... It's also around this time during where Cindy's spilling everything about David Parker Ray that they bring on a 22-year vet of law enforcement, Mary Ellen O'Toole.
God, you couldn't get more Irish than that. Mary Ellen O'Toole.
Mary Ellen O'Toole? She just kind of cemented what everybody else had already thought. They were kind of wondering how much of a sexual sadist is he. Obviously, it didn't take her long to compile, all of the reasons of why
He was like top fucking 5 worst sado ever.
that FBI has ever encountered since the birth of fucking FBI. So she talks about how it starts young, and with people like David Parker Ray, it's a chronic almost disease, not
Because it's an unsatisfiable urge.
right. It takes more and more, like we talked about in the first time. What once was whipping now has to be whipping in shock. What once was whipping in shock now has to be whipping, shock, and
burning or
cutting, or
right.
you always have to feed the beast.
So Roy Yancey was named, and it was something that the police had been hearing a lot. So obviously they wanted to go and they wanted to check him out and bring him in. So on April 9th of 1999, he was actually arrested for the murder of Marie Parker. Now, he was only like an hour and a half into a new job as like a fucking fry cook or something.
Imagine
no
being
offense
the
to a fry
owner.
cook, because you guys make the meanest shit and I'm fat, and so
And we love it.
I
But
know.
being the owner and watching
Yeah, what?
police
Like,
walk in and
they're like, you're
I just
you're
fucking
under.
hired this guy.
I know
Jesus
you're under the
Christ.
arrest for the murder of Marie Parker. You're like, motherfucker. Can I get somebody?
I just wanted you to make French fries.
I know.
Jesus.
Can somebody call in Ralph? I'm going to need him to cover some shifts. So anyway, and at this point, it was only a matter of time before they.
Oh, well, and he knew.
Yeah.
I mean, David Parker Ray and Cindy Hindi were arrested back in March of 22nd.
You know
This
that
is
he was
April
like
9th.
he was
knew.
sweating fucking bullets the entire fucking
He
time.
knew it
Like
was
it was
gonna
only a
come.
matter of time. So he kind of went without a fuss. He knew.
He's like, all right.
Fuck it. All right. Here we go.
And he immediately started confessing, too.
Oh yeah.
He didn't fuck around. He knew. And he talks about Marie Parker. She was a mother of 2 young girls, and they had actually been kicked out of an apartment that they were staying at. And so they were living in a tent.
In a tent that David Parker Ray actually provided for them.
Mm-hmm. And she was also into drugs, and she was also friends with Jesse Ray. And 2 days before she went missing, her and Jesse had gotten into a fight because Jesse wanted to
fuck
seize
her
her sister.
Yeah, Jesse wanted to fuck her, and Marie was like, "Dude, I'm not into the pink.
I don't like the taco.
I don't like the tack."
So I'm going to have to hard pass on that one.
Yeah, and Jesse got all fucking butthurt a kiss about it.
Mm-hmm. And so a couple days later, when Marie was going to meet up with Jesse for a drug deal, she was then taken by Roy and Jesse. And she, of course, was tortured, and David took pictures of Marie Parker as Roy Yancey strangled her. And Roy would say that she was buried in an isolated area just north of Truth or Consequences. So Roy went with the police to the location, and after hours of digging, they couldn't find anything. And Roy had said David must have moved the body, which would make sense to me, because I feel that David Parker Ray would want to make sure that even if somebody flipped on him,
That there
they're
wasn't
not
going to
gonna
be a
find
way, because he knew no body, no crime.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'll let you come and help me bury this person, but then once you go back, I'll come back to this location another time and move it.
No, because David Parker Ray knew, like, he wasn't a fucking fool. He'd gone this long with having a squeaky clean record. So why then would he allow somebody to be involved in anything that was going to pin him to concrete evidence that could sink him?
Right. So now by this point, police know that Marie Parker and,
Billy Bowers.
were victims of David Parker Ray, but there was never enough to actually convict him. Nothing.
Not to either one.
So the problem is now Yance, the prosecutor, is going to have to try to move forward without anything.
Like, not one single murder conviction.
Yeah, which makes it so much harder. And I mean, that's hard enough. And then he really gets fucked over when it comes to everything that kind of happens. And so Roy actually tells the police that after Marie's murder, Jesse and Roy ended up leaving, and they went to, is it Galveston,
Texas.
Yeah, and they
Good old Galvatraz.
and they know that through time periods,
Mm-hmm.
the police could go and ask, and they know that they were actually missing for a year. So they knew that, oh shit, this might be a thing. So they actually left, and they didn't come back until like the fall of 1998. And what they did over in Texas,
Nobody knows. So he would actually also go on and confirm everything else, like the cult, the relationship with Cindy Hendy, and David Parker Ray, all of that fucking snotball of fuckery most foul. He is then charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of conspiracy to kidnap, 1 count of conspiracy to murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of tampering with evidence.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's facing a lot. So now let's kind of talk about Jessie a little bit more since, we talked about her quite a bit in the first episode. We've talked about her now, but we haven't really talked about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was, as we already know, she was the only daughter of David Parker Ray, and we know that she had called
The
back
FBI.
in 1986.
Right.
Which also makes sense if you think that Billy Bowers was murdered in 1989.
Correct.
And Billy Bowers' murder was also very well executed.
Mm-hmm.
He had
Practicing.
already known.
Yeah, he'd already been like doing some shit. So when the FBI questioned her about that, she denied that it was for anything other than like him growing pot.
Yeah, she had said that they had been growing it and all the kids did the work. So when her dad tried to cheat her out of her money, she got mad and she called it in. That's what she said that she called the FBI for, which is bullshit. But by the time David Parker Ray is caught, Jessie immediately jumps towards her dad's defense and won't say anything bad about him at all.
No, she still to this day defends him and insists that he's innocent, which is
Just gross.
I know.
But to make things worse, we also know Jessie was also a mother.
Correct.
And she had a daughter who was living with her mom. And it was rumored that...
David Parker Ray actually fathered that child.
Gross.
So Jessie had moved to be with her dad in 1992 due to illness. Like she was sick all the time. And so I don't understand like why then would you like go and live with your dad? Unless maybe he could like provide health insurance or,
Yeah, I think that's,
things of that nature.
I think that's kind of what it was.
So that's the exact same year that she then became pregnant. So reports would say that even though people...
Before, like, Jessie would say to other people that, yeah, her daughter was David Parker Ray's daughter as well. Like, that she got pregnant by her dad. Because Jessie was a lesbian. She didn't like men. However, she ended up having a daughter.
Right.
And that daughter was due to
Incest. Rape and incest.
Yeah. But after the story broke, then she said, no,
that's not true. That never happened. Which, so here's the fucked up thing that just clicked in my brain. David Parker Ray fucking loved lesbians. Loved them. Because they like...
it was an unattainable thing for
Yeah,
him, I think.
I don't know. And so here's his daughter.
Especially because lesbians don't, most of the time, they don't like men.
Right.
They don't like things associated. So that makes the torture so much more enjoyable for him because he knows that they're not going to like anything that he does to him.
Poor kid. Ugh. So she still, she denies everything. No, my daughter does not belong to my father. My father's an innocent man. Like, and she still will contend with anybody that he's an innocent man. I wonder if they ever did
a paternity test. But they have to have approval since it's a minor.
Not anymore.
She may not be a minor now. No,
she wouldn't be now. Or like close. No.
No, she wouldn't at all.
No, dude,
when
she wouldn't be.
When he was arrested, she was 7.
Yeah, so... I just have a severe Beavis and Butthead moment.
I want to know now.
So now in Truth or Consequences, Jessie would bring over lovers to David Parker Ray's trailer and they would actually fuck on the living room floor. However, there was a camera that was mounted like back behind a wall that was filming through like a hole in the wall and fed through to like
the TV
in his room.
So he could watch
his daughter bang.
Gross.
Other girls.
Yeah. And he also, the other reason why I love lesbians is because they had tight pussies.
Ugh, that's the worst. Because that's like mentioned somewhere. I can't remember where exactly I read that. Where he's like, I love lesbians. They have the tightest pussy. And I'm like, ugh.
Could you not?
But he liked watching his daughter fuck other women.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Right. And so Jessie would then be put into jail to face charges of the Marie Parker case. Also, if fucking your daughter or watching your daughter fuck other people wasn't enough and all your torture also wasn't enough, we're going to kick it up. Do you remember when we left you guys a little bit? When
where
we talked
she
about
said
Cindy Vahil?
That he put gravy on her and like let the dogs lick it off?
Well, we're going to play you the next little audio that comes from David Parker Ray.
You will be taken into the living room and put on the floor on your hands and knees naked. Your wrist, ankles, knees, and hips will be strapped to a metal frame to hold your body in that position. The frame is designed for doggy fucking. Your ass up in the air, sex organs exposed, your tits hanging down on each side of the metal support bar, knees spread about 12 inches, position similar to that of a bitch dog in heat, right in the middle of the floor so we can sit on the couch and on chairs and watch. I'm going to rub canine breeder's musk on your back, on the back of your neck, and on your sex organs. Now I have 3 dogs, all of them male, because we don't need any fucking pups. One of them's a very large German Shepherd that's always horny, and he loves it when I bring him in the house to fuck a woman. After I let him in the house, he'll sniff around you a little bit, and within a minute he'll be mounting you. There's a 50-50 chance on which hole he'll get his penis into, but it doesn't seem to bother him whether it's the pussy or the asshole. His penis is pretty thin, it goes in easy, but it's about 10 inches long, and when he gets completely excited, it gets a hell of a knot right in the middle of it. Now, I've had slaves tell me that it feels like they've got a baseball inside of them. It doesn't take long. He's going to hump you real fast for about 3 or 4 minutes, and while he's doing it, he'll wrap his front legs around your chest to hold himself in position. And in that process, he'll probably scratch up your tits a little bit with his claws. After he gets through, he usually turns around and tries to pull out. Oh, he'll jerk a little, not much, mostly just steady pressure, and I've timed it. The knot will usually shrink up and come out of your pussy in about 3 minutes. If he's in your asshole, about 5. I don't use the dog all that often, but I don't deprive him of pussy either. There's no doubt that he's going to be on you a few times while you're here, because I like watching it. And anytime it's just you, me, and the dog, it will always be in your butt. The dog knot on his penis is big and extremely uncomfortable when he's, pushing it back and forth way up in her anus. I really enjoy watching a girl wiggle, jerk, and squirm around while he's doing it. Consequently, I give him a little, assistance getting it in the right hole. Now, if you think all of this stuff is sick and depraved, you haven't seen anything yet. This is a different world.
Ew. Are you on with me yet? Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, ew.
So there you go. Audio number 7, which is actually the worst one for me that I've seen, is where he talks about being forced into a position that you can now be sexually assaulted by many dogs.
Yeah.
Not just one, many.
Or sometimes a dog and him at the same time.
What?
He lets the dog pick one hole and he does...
What? Yeah, dude, this guy, I cannot with some of that shit. Like,
Because that's just so, what is the word? Like, degrading. You know what I mean? It's bad enough with all the things that he's doing, but now he views you so far as less than a person that he lets his dogs rape you.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Or the fact that he, like, specifically mentions breeder musk.
Yeah.
To make that, like, a thing. And he talks about, like, I don't use the dog all that often, but when I do, it's always going to be in your butt.
Mm-hmm.
What?
And
hold tight, butthole. Hold tight.
Yeah, and how he sits down and how he talks about, like, he did a Q&A with the fucking victims afterwards to find out exactly what it felt like to be raped by a dog, because you know that wasn't coming from his own
personal experience.
No.
And he may have. Considering, like, some of the drugs and shit, he could have been like, now what's that feel like? And God only knows what came out of a person's mouth when they were
get feedback on your torture.
Ugh.
Ew.
Dude.
You're such a piece of shit.
And those poor dogs.
Well, they liked it.
Yeah, but do you know what kind of infections and shit they can get from, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know.
Just because they liked it doesn't mean it's good for them.
Right. Dogs also love peanut butter, but if you give them too much, then that's a bad
Dogs
thing.
also like chocolate, and it fucking kills them. So, but then...
What he says with the dogs and things like that is disgusting and terrible, and what makes it even worse is there was a lot of evidence that supported the audios.
Right.
You know, they found the contraption that they would use to...
hold her into place and force her open.
Yeah, and then he had dogs there, plus there was videos.
Well, and it was also noted in a couple of different things that I read, and I should take better notes so that people can go back and read where I've read, but he would actually invite people that were like his friends and shit, and maybe they were members of the cult as well, but it never said that. It just said like friends of his would actually come over and they would watch as well as these girls were being tortured by dogs
Yeah, you know how, when we get together and we
for
watch
like fight night and
Yeah.
fucking football, but
dog rapey.
that's a hard pass. I'm gonna have to respectfully decline, and then
Right,
I'm gonna call the police on you.
That'd be like me calling you and be like, "Hey, Angel, do you have any plans this weekend? Because we're gonna tie a bitch down and have our dog fuck her. You into that?
You know what?
Will you
I'll bring the
bring
beer. you make spaghetti. I'll bring the beers. It'll be a good time. We can rub some meatball.
Huh?
Sorry, it just started
Some
coming out. We can
meatballs?
rub some meatballs on there. He can have some spaghetti too. Fucking who does that?
Fucked
Up people.
Fucked up people. Mm-mm.
But yeah, like, how
Bestiality
would
is not okay with me.
No, dude, there's a line that needs to be drawn, and I actually watched on an episode, I want to say it was either like Taboo or anyway, something similar, where they were actually talking about how the boys in like South America actually have like, they either do it with chickens or donkeys, and they like repeatedly practice sexually with like animals and stuff. And it's like not an uncommon thing in that part of the world.
No, actually, we need to take a small little break for a second.
Okay.
I had to tell a personal,
Peace.
yeah, not personal to me,
Personal to where we live.
Yes.
Personal, local.
yeah, that I couldn't mention on
But
the air.
yeah, apparently, like, it's not really frowned on in other areas where, and apparently,
Look at all the people that fuck sheep.
oh my God.
And apparently a sheep vagina is the closest to a human vagina,
Oh,
right?
okay, that's a fun fact I also did not know.
It's a fun fact I wish I didn't know, and I don't know if it's true, but I wasn't gonna, like,
Go
Google
find
that.
out.
I Google enough fucked up thing.
Oh yeah, it is kind of nice. Fucking gross.
Right. But yeah, bestiality is not okay with me
No.
on any fucking level.
So now they've got the audio, they've got the contraption, they've got dogs that exist on the property, as well as
All
the video
videos.
evidence.
So let's go on to some other potential victims that we had found. Potential. And other reports made about this odd fucking collection of skin suits. So Jim Yance, who is the prosecutor, he's doing an awesome job of trying to put so many pieces of the puzzle together at this point. And he came across a missing person, 19-year-old Tara Calico, and she went missing back in 1994. And reports would say that they remember seeing her with someone in a white van, but they couldn't get the plate number in time. At the time,
Guess who else had?
a white van?
Of course he fucking
He
did.
was 2/3 of the Holy Trinity. He had a mustache and a van.
I'll bet that he had some double bird reading glasses somewhere.
I guarantee he did. But without knowing the plate number of this van and no other evidence, again, they weren't able to tie it to David Parker Ray. So there was also a man named Lee who was found murdered, and Roy Yancey was the last person to see him alive. And he was found, and he had nuts and bolts shoved down his throat.
Yes, but he also had a doorknob shoved up his ass.
That's terrible. I'm not laughing. I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing.
I'm not laughing at the victim. I'm laughing at, like, who does that? Nuts and bolts?
Down the throat and a doorknob. A doorknob
In the butt.
in the butt. Did he use his balls as a knocker?
Coming in.
No. Can't.
Oh, no.
I'm terrible right now.
Oh, man. So, and this was actually another method that was actually mentioned that David Parker Ray liked to use.
His doorknobs in the butthole.
Right.
So weird.
Yeah.
Fucking the creativity on this man, I guess. But nothing came of the death of Lee either.
No. Well, there wasn't enough.
No.
Like,
There's never
never enough.
God damn it.
It's kind of like fucking goldfish. There's never enough.
Never, especially
So
those
anyways.
pizza ones. All right.
Oh my God, I have some in my bag. I'll leave them with you. 'Cause I think I have another bag at home.
Okay, and I'll switch you.
Okay.
We'll do
We'll do a
goldfish
swap, a
Yep.
snacky swap.
Okay, perfect.
Because we're fat.
Because we're fat and we like snacks.
Oh, man.
So there was also a previous owner of a bar that was called Raymond's Lounge, and the owner was Dan Dickinson. And he actually came forward and talked about the trio, which would be David Parker Ray, Cindy Hindi, and Roy Yancey. And Raymond's Lounge was one of the bars that they frequently
Frequented.
visited.
Yeah.
But they took all of the victims, mostly from the saloon. And I think it was the Blue Water Saloon. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. But he would also say that, like, David Parker Ray never really drank.
No.
But Cindy and Roy almost acted like they were spending daddy's money. You know what I mean? Because they were kind of all over the place, having a good time. He kind of sat in the corner and watched as they would just, like, rally their fucking guts out. And so people would actually be like, oh, he's just a nice, lonely old man, and they're taking advantage.
Right. And they would also say that David Parker Ray was pretty quiet, but when he did talk, he was actually quite funny. He was witty. And so it's just...
It's that fucking sociopath thing, though. Like, that we've talked about that.
Now
where
I'm going
like
to have to start side-eyeing fucking Spencer. Spencer's also quiet and really nice, and I would never expect, think that he would do anything like that. And when he does talk, he's fucking hilarious. So now, got my eyes on you, Yeti.
Oh, maybe his game nights, he's really not out playing Warhammer.
Maybe he is, but it's a different kind of Warhammer. Fucking slaying people. Just kidding.
He would never.
He would never.
He's my puppy.
So,
but, ooh.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm excited.
Go.
So this was something that I didn't know, even like after I had been reading and stuff. And so when you turned over this case to me and you were like, here, read this. This was the part that I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
What the fuck?
Please explain.
Explain yourself. So a local photographer, his name was Rick Hart, talked about them, and he took pictures of the trio in 1998. And he said that David Parker Ray and David... Wait, what?
But he came to David Parker Ray's house.
Oh, right.
And they were like... He did a home call.
Okay.
Because there wasn't a lot of photography, really, that he could always do. Like, he would do kind of, like the typical family pictures.
Gotcha.
Wedding, different things like that.
Because I read
he
that
would
a little
also
wrong.
do some darker bedroom pictures.
Roger that. Some boudoir.
Yes,
So to
some
speak.
nasty.
So he would come over to David Parker Ray's, and David would be sitting on the couch. And then he would be sitting like with his legs open. Cindy Hendy would then get naked and like crawled into his lap facing Rick, who's the photographer, and like lay her head down on David's chest. And she'd like wrap her arms around his body and like try to be all seductive and schlinky, I guess. So then Roy would come in and like start sucking on her boobs, start fingering the shit out of her, like angry banging. And, all the while Rick is in the fucking corner just snap, 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 snap.
With a probably rock hard boner. I don't know. If I saw that vagina with cut off lips, I'd probably be like,
I still don't know where she went to have that done, or like you would, in my estimation, a procedure of that magnitude where, let's just go ahead and say it, dude. Ladies have a self-cleaning mechanism in their body, but we also like on a day-to-day basis, we sweat down there. And you would, I would assume that like you would have to have that medically and professionally done, or like professionally done medically.
Well, I think that it was. I just think that it was off hours or put under as a different procedure
or something.
Because if you go back through and you listen to other fucking terrible people that we'll eventually talk about, like Dr. Kermit Gosnell and all the shit that he used to do when it came to running a clinic and abortions and all that fucked up shit. I mean, he was a licensed professional. He had everything. He was just doing some shady fucking shit.
Because you can't just like run home, grab a deboning knife, take the face of your vagina off, and then like...
Vagina face. It's gone.
Gone. It's just the faceless man now. But you can't go in there and just cut off all your precious pink parts. And like nothing, like who was gonna, I guess, well, you know what? David Parker Ray probably could have done it because he talked about having all the medical supplies to stitch a bitch back up.
Well, and maybe if a medical professional was in the cult.
And then, but then that?
Ew.
Anyway,
You
fucking
ripped
nasty.
the petals off of the rose.
Oh my God. Dude.
Now it's just the thorny
Did you ever-
underlying fucking...
Did you ever name your vagina?
No.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
I know, I suck. I never named my tits either.
I didn't name my tits,
I
but
didn't name anything.
my downstairs is named Darla because she's a little rascal.
Darla.
Darla. No, but like Darla has never done anything hateful to me other than like, her and the uterus conspire for Mother Nature's monthly murder attempt. But like other than that, my vagina has never done anything mean to me. So like, why would you go in there and start defacing? I would never deface Darla ever.
Well, that's because you also don't like being fucking pounded the same way Cindy Indy does, apparently. Because those lips were getting in the way.
It's so raw, dude.
Just so...
So raw.
Anyways, okay.
So the whole time,
yeah, David's just sitting there.
like DPR is just sitting there grinning his ass off. And so Rick said that he was like the neatest, cleanest, and most polite person you would ever meet. And he would also be one of the people to be like, you know, Cindy Hendy and Roy Yancey are just taking advantage of that sweet old man.
So, you know, like this has been a thing that's been talked about throughout his whole life. Even his own stepkid said the same thing.
He is like the master of manipulation then.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he really was just a sweet old man with like a fucking mental illness. Or like, you know what I mean? Maybe he was possessed. I don't know.
I just think he was disgusting.
Well, that too.
So then you move on to a woman
Oh, this chick is my favorite.
Candy. Is it
Candy Friars.
Friars.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up leaving Truth or Consequences like immediately after the arrest of David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy. Like she bounced. And she had also been in the toy box, but she was one of the only people that ever shocked David because anything he did to her,
She liked
loved.
it. Oh, yeah. She was fucking into it. She wrote
love
him
letters?
Ew. Love letters.
Ew.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I'm smiling so hard I can't talk.
She would say things like, I love what you did to me. You know the ropes. Some of those big things hurt, but I must have creamed 15 times. My back door is still sore, but ready for more. So she was a poet.
And didn't even know it.
And these are some of the notes that when we move on into part 3, when David Parker Ray gets a second defense attorney.
Right. They're going to pull these letters up and be like, but look,
He's not really this bad guy. This bitch liked it.
yeah, she creamed 15 times.
1 out of hundreds.
I will never, ever, ever say that. Ever.
I creamed.
I creamed.
Creamed my jeans.
Gross. You can go ahead and add that to the list of words I don't want to hear.
I've got a moist gusset.
I've got to, oh, dude. What was the other one that's saturated? I've saturated my panties with cream.
Never looking at Twinkies the same.
Oh, God.
I don't like Twinkies anymore.
I don't know. Some of the things we may have just said, like male listeners would be like, you could say it out loud. It's all right. And I'm over here just like shuddering, like, oh.
Yeah.
Nasty. Creamed.
Like, I get it. I understand it.
I know.
but
I get it
it's
too.
still-
But still, like,
I'm
when
uncomfortable with it.
maybe I don't like it just because of the way she said it in the context in which it was being used.
That's kind of why I never liked the word moist, is because I read one of my mom's crotch novels when I was younger, aka romance novels. But
Crotch.
when I read shit like he placed me upon his member and
Oh,
my
dude, things like
moist,
his pulsating member,
yeah,
throbbing, his throbbing man sock. Like,
gross.
ugh.
Watch porn and don't read that disgusting filth.
Watch porn like a goddamn grown up, for God's sake.
For some reason, porn is less offensive than those romance novels. Like, I read those and I'm way more uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't like
I think
it.
the first one I ever read, I think I was like 13 or 14, and I found it in like a stash of my mom's shit.
Right.
And I came walking out and I like had it like earmarked.
Oh, yeah.
So that when she came home, I could ask her, I'm like, flink, what is a member, a throbbing member? And she's like, that's my book. And I was like, hey, yeah, I read a lot of your books. She like snatched it from me and I was like, I need to know how it ends. Like, can you give me the Cliff's Notes version? And what the fuck is a throbbing member? Like,
Yeah, I read like pulsating member and rode me into the sunset, and I was like,
oh God.
gross. I immediately was like, huh, this is not okay.
I still can't with things like fucking creamed and saturated, and my undergarment was completely saturated in my excitement. I'm like, oh God.
I must have creamed 15 times. Ew.
No, bitch, can you not?
Could you stop it?
Anyway, so the defense attorney is then going to turn back to it and be like, but look, some of these women really liked it, and I think that maybe they just needed a better safe word. Because stop it and please don't weren't good enough.
Yeah. So we also know that David wasn't a sweet old man.
No.
You don't hand a journal to the FBI and then only let 3 people in the world see it if you're just like this nice guy. That doesn't happen.
No.
That's a big no. And actually, FBI agent John Shum would say, and I quote, "This guy is the worst sadistic." Okay, let me start this over. This guy is the worst sadistic serial killer in the history of the FBI. And it's actually a title that
Like still holds. But
so any of the
it's
other,
funny
like,
that they use serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where that whole kind of thing comes in, is that he's not
Right.
a serial killer.
But he is.
Yeah. Well, if you think about the hundreds of videos,
Oh my God.
and they've only identified 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So
But then we've got a little piece of audio that
This
we're going to
is-
share with you. And I think this is our last
it
one.
is our last one for this episode.
Yes, for this
For
episode.
this episode.
Ugh, and I don't like this one either. This one was difficult to listen to as well.
No, so enjoy.
I love oral sex. If it's done right, you're going to be taught exactly the way I like it. How to use your lips and tongue. We'll be practicing a lot. And each time when I get ready to come, I'm going to push my penis down your throat and keep it there until I'm through squirting. I'm not going to choke you, but you need to learn how to hold your breath and to swallow every bit of the sperm. If I see one drop leak out of your mouth, I'm going to punish you. Basically, it's going to be the same with your mistress. If she demands oral sex, you say yes, mistress, and respond. She also will teach you exactly the way she likes it, and you will keep using your tongue on her pussy until she gets off. Now, I can't foresee what kind of bitch you're going to be, how you feel about oral sex, or any of that shit, but I'm going to tell you this. If, during oral sex or any other time, you should bite one of us, I'm going to cut on you a little bit.
He really drove home that talking about fucking jizzing in your fucking mouth hole until he's done. And you
Oh my
can't-
God, like how he's going to like stick his penis so far down your throat, but don't gag and don't bite.
And you better not make any dribble.
And you better take it all.
Ugh. Ugh. And then when he talks about at the...
Sweet, until I'm done squirting.
Ew.
Ugh,
Yeah, and we were talking about on our break how dirty talk is forever ruined.
I know.
For not me, but
For me,
and
like,
I'm sure for many people.
dude, you can, I just, no, anyway.
I just can't dirty talk. I just walk in and I'm like, dick, now.
Make!
Yeah, there's nothing sexy about me. I don't do like the little teasing thing. I'm like, drop your pants. I need a fucking attitude adjustment.
I need,
We have 10 minutes.
oh, dude, the quickie station.
Yep.
Dude, you'll get that when you start having fucking kids.
I know.
And it doesn't like, it gets a little easier as they get older. Oh my God. I don't think either one of my kids listen to this, but I know Deegan does. So you better keep your little mouth hole shut. But it gets easier as they get older, but still, like the interruptions and shit.
If people knew how often their parents were
We're
fucking-
shagging while they were like one door away.
Uh-huh. All the time. All the time. Reminds me of when Joey caught Quinn and I in the shower.
Oh my God, that's still my favorite story though.
And he was so traumatized because he was like,
Why are you hurting my mom?
what are you doing? He was not okay. And so we're like, get out. And he's like, ugh. And then later when we have friends over, he has 2 Pop-Tarts. He's like, let me tell you.
Forgotten about that.
me
He
tell
was
you
like
what happened.
explaining with Pop-Tarts
And
how he
turned
saw
the
mommy
one
and dad.
Pop-Tart on his side. And was banging it together, and then all you see is like crumbs from the Pop-Tarts falling onto the floor.
shit.
As Quinn and I are losing our fucking
Oh
mind.
God.
It wasn't embarrassing for us, it was hilarious, but and that's when we learn the importance of locking the door.
Right?
But
Goodness
anyways,
sake.
at the end of that audio, he talks about, if you bite us, I'm going to
I'm gonna hurt you really
I'm gonna
bad.
hurt you. And in a separate video, he actually talks about what happens if a woman bites, specifically mentioning that if you were to bite him, he will cut off your nipples. And
Make you swallow them.
and there was actually a video that they found where David had actually done that to a victim. She obviously wasn't complying in some way. They don't really give a lot of details what was in the video,
Right.
but you do know that
He actually lopped off her nipple and put it in her throat.
shoved it down her throat and made her eat them. Okay. Also, to kind of go in with, we've said throughout this whole episode, we hear these things and it's horrible and it's unbelievable, but then there's facts to back it up because he documents everything.
Right. So one of the things that Ember found that I'm thoroughly impressed with was this in the book? That's what I thought. Okay, I need to read that.
You really do. I need to send it over to you. It's awesome.
He documented like everything, not by the person's name.
No, he had basically a tally sheet, and at the top it would say like abduction date or capture date, and then the tally marks were number of tortures or sexual assaults, abuse, whatever. And so the list was very, very long. And for instance, one was September 9th, 1994. Whatever victim he took had 41 tally marks behind that date. So she was assaulted 41 times. Moving on to May 8th of 1995, there was 53 with that victim. January 27th of 96, there was 51. And March 16th of 1997, there was 46. So
Stop and wrap your brain around that.
Right.
Like, that's how many times in the course of
A few years.
Well, no, but like
Well-
for each victim, it could have been a couple of weeks, it could have been a month.
Yeah.
That's how many times.
Or even if he took a victim, sometimes they were as little, like Angie was as little as 5 days.
And that's how many times
Mm-hmm.
you're being assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and if you remember back in part 1 where he talks about in the cult that you would be raped 40 to 50 times
Oh, yeah.
and then washed out so they can do it again. So I think that the tally marks that was in the toy box were only things that he specifically did to them, not counting anything that happened within the cults.
So, speaking about the cult, that actually brings us into a piece that is like particularly haunting, and especially to me. It actually shows in one of the videos, he is donned in like a long black robe and he's wearing like this gold glitter leather mask and he's got a woman all strapped up. And there's other people, I believe, that are in the video as well. But
Cindy
it's,
Handy was in there too.
okay, so, but it's specifically kind of focused on him. And this is one of the satanic cult videos. So they take, ooh, do you want to take this or do you want me to get it?
You can get it if you want.
Yeah, right. So this is actually one of the times that we referenced earlier in this episode where there may not be bodies, but there are definitely fucking deaths. And I think that that is probably one of the things that the FBI gets most frustrated about is they lack the body to convict.
Right.
Because in this particular video, David Parker Ray actually takes a cattle prod and sticks it into this woman's vagina. You can see then her, like, she's bleeding, smoke's coming out of her vagina.
She's convulsing.
She's convulsing, like she's not in good fucking shape. And I don't know if you guys know, but like cattle prods are over like 150 to 180 volts to get through a cowhide to get them to where they need to be. This is inside of your fucking body.
Yeah,
and
mucous membranes.
Mucous membrane.
Where in the thing separating your like pelvic area from the rest of your body, that is a very
Thin tissue.
easy to pull through. So he's doing this. The woman's screaming. She's convulsing.
There's blood coming like out of her mouth, out of her downstairs.
Yeah, so she starts bleeding from
Like her mouth,
almost
ears,
like all of
eyes,
her orifices,
like, yeah,
like any pore type of thing.
and then she finally like slumps over and it's pretty obvious that she's dead.
Yeah. As he's doing the cattle prod, he does the cattle prod for a little while, and then I believe he takes that out, and as he takes that out, then he starts raping her. And she's also being raped in the mouth. She's being raped vaginally, I think also anally.
By
And
like
then-
other members of this cult.
And then she finally, her head kind of like slumps over, and then she's obviously dead, and then somebody reaches over and turns off the tape.
So
And
she
that's all they know.
like raped basically to death.
And they never identified her, ever.
No.
They still
that's-
don't know who she is.
That's what I'm saying is like they've got video, and I don't know if would, oh my God.
I know,
I don't know if that would hold up now in court. Like if you were seen, if you could be identified doing this to a person and then the person was visibly dead, but I guess you can't really, I mean, it could have been
Passed out from pain or whatever, but apparently...
but a fucking cattle prod in your choach?
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
And it wasn't... He used a cattle prod in that specific video, but they also talk about in other videos how he used other things like the soldering iron or the branding irons. He was a fan of all of those.
High level 10 fucking pain.
Yeah. A branding iron?
A soldering iron in your cha-cha,
Uh-huh.
in your wawaha.
And then he tries to say that he never wanted to actually physically,
Like permanently hurt somebody.
How is that not permanent?
You're permanently burning somebody.
How
That's
do you
like,
not kill somebody with that?
yeah,
You do.
you do.
Ew, hey,
Maybe he just really like, maybe that was his thing. Like he really didn't want to kill somebody, but he like couldn't fucking help himself type thing.
Right.
Because you have to know sticking a fucking cattle prod up inside somebody like that that is permanent. That
Well, and they talk about all those other
dude, and they've
things.
got the two little thingies on the end, like that very easily tore through.
Oh,
And I think it probably did.
Oh, yeah. She probably died from, my guess would be like internally, like hemorrhaging.
Burns,
Mm-hmm.
electrocution. That's a lot for your internal organs to take as they're zapping.
Right, right. And what's really terrifying to actually like sit down and fully think about is everything that we've already talked about. But the fact that the cattle prod video was safe enough to mention. But they never mentioned the other videos that involved the soldering irons or the branding irons or a lot of the other methods of torture. So it makes you think of how much worse is it really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
So that's
yeah.
that is a lot to wrap your brain around, though.
It really
Like,
is.
oh, we're gonna tell you about this one where there was a cattle prod and then they raped her to death, but the rest of these are a little bit too extreme. What?
Yeah, like the cattle prod wasn't. It gets worse.
But wait, there's more.
There's more than dog raping and it gets worse from there. Oh yeah, you've been rocking that for a little bit. It's been fine.
I've got a pretty little. There you go. Put that
I love
there.
it.
My hairs.
But I think it's important before we move into part 3 that we touch base on Judge Neil Mertz and the frustrations, I guess. So Jans wanted this to be a very like open,
like a swift. Let's
case.
fucking take care
You
of this.
have
Let's
over
get it done.
1,500 pieces of evidence. It should
Right.
be a very open shut case.
No, you've got Cindy Hill, you've got Andrew Montano, you've got Jesus Christ, Kelly Von Cleese. Like, you've got 3 women, you've got 1,500 pieces of evidence, you've got this fucked up journal that he's been keeping.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that right there should have been enough to convict, like, on the fucking spot.
Yeah.
But then what happens?
Jesus. So Judge Neil Mertz was, and I said this in the first episode too, he was either the fairest judge of all the land and or he just wanted to see David be able to walk free, which we'll get into, and we'll get into more deeply in part 3. However, after the arrest in March and in April of everybody, so Cindy Hindy, David Parker Ray,
Roy Yancey,
and Jesse Ray,
right?
all of them had already been pushed back twice. All of their cases, when they're supposed to go to trial, they had already been pushed back.
Okay.
And the trial should have started on October 4th of 1999, but the judge pushes it back for another 6 months. And
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I don't know, David was a huge hit in jail. So he didn't care. Everybody loved him in jail. Loved him, which is just weird. Even the officers, because he was so nice.
But then that goes back into that thing where, like, you know, he was a quiet guy, but when he did talk, he was quite funny and he was witty and...
Mm-hmm. So
Excuse me.
No, you're fine. So they would call him like Mr. Ray or Big Dave. And what's gross is even with everything that everybody's finding out about him,
He's still got friends.
yeah, and the women in jail were throwing panties at him and telling him, "Eat me, David, eat me," as he's walking to his cell and shit. Right? The face of multiple blinking, like you're trying to figure out what I just said. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did they have like co-ed jail?
Yeah, I think it was because he wasn't in prison yet. It was just it
right,
was
just jail. That's nasty.
Yeah.
Oh, like Cleveland. Oh, that's nasty.
That's nasty.
So-
go ahead.
Oh, no. September 22nd, 1999, David's attorney, Jeff Rain, files to have Jesse Ray and David Parker Ray tried separately for Kelly, Angie, and Cindy Vahil as a way to help fight off the compelling evidence that would convict them both.
Right. You break them up into 3 separate cases. It limits what you can bring in.
Right. This would mean more work and more headache for Jim Younts, who had already, he's
working
already
his ass
fucking
off.
eyeballs deep in
And-
all sorts of shit.
And if you think back on Patricia Rust, who committed suicide, think about the mental torment that
Led her to load her firearm and end her own life is now what he's got.
is now what Jim Younts has to face. And this was 1999. It didn't end until 2002. That's a long time.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I only spent a couple months on this, and it fucks with me hard.
And he had years.
Years.
Years. And God only knows, like, how much of that video he was made to sit and watch.
he
And
watched-
you know what I mean?
He listened to all of the audio tapes. He watched videos. He had to so he could file this case. This is another reason why I find it's important to support police officers and different things like that, because they're the ones that see
You guys
this.
have no idea, like, the things that they see on a day-to-day basis, whether it's like mangled bodies being pulled out of cars, or it could be, you know, a little girl that gets picked up by CPS and she's been molested or raped, or maybe a little boy that's been in the same situation. And they're the ones having to go in and like interview and talk and like
Hear it.
and get the evidence. Oh man,
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
You got the cuties.
I know,
So-
the lung butter.
You go through that enough, it's going to fuck with you. And I was actually reading a thing the other day of how even tow truck drivers
Oh yeah.
get fucked up mentally.
Well, like, stop and think about what they see too. Like, there might not be a body in it, but like some of the car accidents that I know have existed where there's blood and guts everywhere, and they're the ones towing that shit back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just crazy the amount of people that a lot of people don't take into consideration of what they actually go through mentally.
EMTs, policemen, firefighters, dispatch. Oh my God. I tow truck drivers, FBI, all of it.
All of them. Like, I just want to thank
I think we
everybody.
should do the 911 call episode where like we let people have an opportunity to listen to some of them, and then we can bring up that like 10 worst and like discuss, because some of it is true crime. Remember the remix? God, the little boy that had to watch his dad stab his mom in the front yard, and he's like, my dad's killing my mom. Dude.
And do like maybe some what is it? Confessions of
Oh
like
my God.
dispatchers, like testimonies of
Right.
dispatchers, police officers. We have enough people and enough listeners that work in those.
Oh, right.
realms.
Well, I mean, there's some like on the interwebs as we speak of like former dispatch that have been like, this is the worst call I've ever heard.
Maybe we should do that for our Thanksgiving special before Thanksgiving, so people can be thankful for our people that protect us.
I think I rather like that idea.
I think I'm gonna pencil that in.
Stick that on the calendar.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put a pin in there.
Kelly, pen that in. That sounds like a great episode. So,
By November 5th, 1999, Cindy has now fired her previous attorney, and her new attorney is trying to say that she's changing her plea from guilty to now innocent. So she already made a deal to get a reduced sentence. She
Right.
gets a new person, and now she's like, oh, you know how she said that she was guilty? She's not. She's innocent.
meaning that the 14 murders that she confessed, including Billy Bowers, are now off the table.
Yeah, he can't even mention it.
No.
Jim Yance cannot mention one thing, one dead body, one anything.
Nothing
even though
that
they
she
don't
fucking
have,
said.
Yeah, even though they don't have a body or solid evidence, he still could have mentioned this person died who is in relation to this guy.
Right.
This person, this person. Now, since Cindy decided, oh, just kidding, all of that.
Has been thrown out the fucking window and can't be used.
So all of that work that Jim Yance has put into and everything that he wants to work for is now goodbye. Figure it out. Don't know what to tell you.
Oh, man. What a slap in the ass.
Yeah.
And not the good kind.
Right. And to make things worse, the defense attorney, Rain, what was his first name? Jeff Rain, his request for the 3 separate trials, the judge grants in November 9th of 1999. This is an enormous blow to the case for Jim. So
Right.
he already got any of the bodies ripped out, and now there's this that he can't use either. So they set the trial to begin for David Parker Ray to be held in
Tierra Amarilla.
Yes, on March 28th of 2000, and Jesse Ray would be tried in Gallup,
New Mexico.
on July 10th of 2000. So that's where we're going to kind of
Bring it to
end,
an end of part 2 of the Toy Box Killer
with Ember and
and Angel of the Color Me Dead podcast.
So, this is when the trial is supposed to set place will be March 28th of 2000, but keep in mind it doesn't end until 2002. So we have
Right.
2 years worth of
Information that we're going to be leaking into your faces.
into fuckery, most foul. Of course, there's also going to be more audio for you.
Yes, more audio.
Just because I don't want anybody to forget about David Parker Ray and what he did to people while we're
We'll
in the
just
trial.
sneakily on here. But there's a lot going on into the trial. that I think is very eye-opening for people when you learn how everything happens and how it goes down and like...
And I even had some of my own questions, which I'm very grateful that we're friends with Stephen Lampley.
Oh, yeah.
Because I messaged him and I said, hey, I have an important question for this case because it doesn't make sense to me. And he was awesome and helped me out. So we greatly appreciate that.
Yes.
And we'll talk about it next week for sure.
Yes.
But I have somewhere. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is.
Hey, it's Erin.
And this is Jordan.
Each week, we dig up the facts on fascinating felonies
And mesmerizing misdemeanors.
Join us as we prove that you don't have to know too much about the legal system to be crazy for a good true crime story.
Subscribe to Crime Crazy on iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
And visit us at crimecrazypodcast.com.
He doesn't even go here.
Every year, new TV shows get canceled. Some make it an entire season, and some don't even make it that far. I'm Ed, host of Unaired, where each week we review a show that was canceled with episodes left unaired, then pitch our ideas for what could have been future episodes of those shows. We've covered shows like Cavemen, the show based on the Geico Cavemen commercials, the ill-fated 2011 Wonder Woman pilot, a show called Look Well, where Adam West plays an aging TV detective who thinks he can solve real crimes, and many more. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, unairedpodcast.com, or wherever you download podcasts. And remember, some things are better left unaired.
As always, we do have like little shout outs and little quips, like different stuff you guys should certainly check out.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that this episode wasn't...
I don't know, it may not be as funny as number one.
Yeah, we didn't have as many squirrel hunts.
No, but like when you start talking about dog rape and cattle prods in people's pink parts, it's not very funny.
Right. It's hard to make a joke out of it, and it is a very serious situation.
Sensitive.
Like, we can be funny when it's more of the lighthearted things.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, I think we still had some funny...
I hope.
I'm coming to the end of this, like, where I've been talking so much that now I like, can't get the tickle out. I know.
But we forgot to continue to mention that our buddy with Amulet Beard...
Oh, yeah.
He's still running the promo for us. Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, it's okay.
So you guys definitely... Oh, so I actually, Angel, I ordered all 4 of the options. And there's one called Love Story that I actually use in my own hair.
Nice.
That I really like. And then there's one called The Fresh Prince of Salt Lake that I highly recommend. All 4 are excellent. They are... Like, the packaging is fantastic. When they come, they're well packaged. So there's no breaking during the shipment. Each bottle is sealed really well. I love, like, the dripper bottle is perfect, and the smell and the quality of the oil is fantastic.
Did you get any of the balms?
I did not get balms. I only got oil.
Well, you should get balms for your own hair.
Oh.
Because it's really good for hair. So you don't have to be a dude. You don't have to have a beard to even get this shit.
Oh, no, dude. And I actually, like I said, I highly recommend it. If you go to amuletbeard.com. And you use the promo code CMDP17, you get 20% off.
Yes.
And so, I mean, really.
Yeah. Well, and I had found out about putting all the shit in your own hair. Like, I always put, like, argan oil and Moroccan oil in my hair. But then I was reading about a lot of beauty shops are now starting to put, like, beard oil or beard balm.
Well, I can understand how that would, like, be, yeah, because, and especially where my hair is so coarse, that would be an excellent, yeah.
So try it out.
I think I'm going to go home tonight and do that and then maybe buy some balms from Amulet.
That's good. It's good stuff. Also, I wanted to mention, in case you're not going to be sleeping anytime soon, thanks to our cases that we're covering, go and check out Black Rifle Coffee. They're based out of Salt Lake as well, but they can ship anywhere, and they're veteran owned, operated. They donate a lot to our vets, who we obviously support a lot.
Correct.
Plus, what is the one coffee? I would have to look it up. It's called, like, Murdered Out or something. It's, like, extra dark.
Oh, so like my kind of coffee.
Yeah, it's good. It's good shit.
Oh, so definitely go and check that out. Black Rifle Coffee.
And they have espresso beans as well, and you can order it either ground or whole bean. I always recommend whole bean and then grind your own because it's fresher and it's better. If that's being picked up, I don't know. It's being picked up for us.
For us.
If it's on this audio, my cousin Liv, she's upstairs right now playing the guitar.
She got new strings, so I'm sure she's restringing her guitar.
Exactly. Also, shout outs for podcast friends.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So I actually started listening to a new podcast called Nature of the Beast. And I actually came across their stuff on Twitter. And so they are also another true crime podcast. And their very first episode is on Ed Kemper, which was
I love him.
Yeah. And they're
I don't, but I do.
they're a lot like us, where they go back and forth with a lot of the quippy, witty,
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So definitely go check them out. They're on iTunes, Nature of the Beast.
Perfect. And then the one that I've been listening to a lot this week is Pleasing Terrors. And are you okay? We need a broom, like an old lady. Keep it down up there. We're at the very end, thank goodness.
Right.
But Pleasing Terrors, it's with Mike, and I really like his voice and how he presents stories. His most recent one, I think, was the one that was on vampires, which was really cool. I really like that one.
Well, and I just barely downloaded it because I knew that you'd been talking to him back and forth a little bit, but I was in the throes of listening to something else. And so I actually went back and downloaded that today so that I could start listening to it as well.
Yeah, and I really liked episode number 22, and it was called Hell Broke Loose. And it was about a serial killer that happened, I can't remember the exact era, but it was a lot of slaves or maids or whatever that were being murdered with, I believe it was a hammer or an axe. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I just wanted to hurry and quickly grab his last name because my brain is dumb. Mike Brown. That's what I thought it was. But I was like, I don't want to fuck it up.
I'm not sure. See, and I don't even have the names for the guys for Nature of the Beast yet. And because I just barely started listening to it. And I'm pretty sure that if I had paid closer attention, I'd be able to regurgitate that now. But you know me.
Right.
Squirrel.
But this was the case that I was talking about, Hell Broke Loose. It was 1884.
Nice.
So, yeah. And it was an axe murderer.
Interesting.
And there was a lot of murders. So it's really interesting. And I don't know, I just really like his voice. And the episodes aren't very long. It's anywhere from 30 to like 45 minutes. Some are as long as 20. So, I mean, it's one of those nice little ones that you can...
Like do it while you're cleaning or commuting. And then there's also a fun one that I just started listening to, and I'm not very deep into it, but it's called Hillbilly Horror Stories. And that one's fun because a lot of it is like Southern.
Right, and you have the stand-up comedian, and it's also with his wife.
Right.
So you kind of have that fun...
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And...
Because people actually talk about wanting us to do another episode with Quinn and Spencer.
Oh, I know. We need to think about...
Like, content. Like what we want to do to make it funny.
We need to have Spencer be a voice for somebody sometime.
We can.
We should have him do Shun of Sham.
Shun of Sham.
Shun of Sham.
Okay, I'll tell him. I'll be like, listen, here's the deal. Quinn did the audio for Toy Box, so you have to do the Son of Sam. Also, go to threadless.com.
Oh, yeah. Go check out our stuff.
Go get merch.
Gonna be working on new designs, too, before I leave to go camping. I'm really excited about show from like the 13th to the 16th. I won't be on any form of anything.
Well, just so that everybody knows, I will try and answer emails, and I will try to keep up with Facebook and Twitter as well. The 13th through the 16th of September actually lands like in the middle of a week, so I will also be at work. So during the day, I probably won't be as active, and then when I get home after I feed my chitlins and like clean my house a little bit, I will definitely jump on. So if I don't answer you guys right away, it's because Ember's taking some much needed like I almost said DNR. R&R. Do not resuscitate. No, don't do it. Don't resuscitate your phone. Take that rest and relaxation. Right. And I will try and pick up the slack as best I can while I'm, like on my breaks and stuff.
I'm sad that I'm going to miss what everybody says about, because this episode releases the day that I'm gone.
Do you want me to text you? Or you probably won't even have, you fucking savage, you won't even have service if you're that high up in the mountains.
I might get some, because I was able to text you when I was up there after.
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Go and check out the promos that we played today, too. So...
Yes, definitely do.
Yeah.
We would never lie to you, and we would never steer you wrong. So if we recommend a podcast, at least go check it out. But just remember, we're your favorite.
We're your favorite. And, we try to recommend pretty much any and all. We have a really cool podcast community that we're all a part of, that we've been able to go and make friends with other podcasts. And so There's probably a lot of podcasts on there that you guys may not know about, but you guys may be interested in whatever subject they may cover. That's why we
Right.
cover more than just other true crime
Right.
things.
Well, and it's one of those things where, like, not saying like I get burned out on true crime, but I can.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, then I dip off and I go listen to, like, Joe Rogan, because his has such a broad variety of stuff. That's why I like listening to the two Bobs. You know what I mean? Because they have such a wide variety of stuff.
Rob and Slim.
Rob and Slim, like even the Functioning Drunks, like those two have like some giggle matter that I like to get into. So it's
Or
not,
even like Down in Front.
oh
who
yeah,
cover movies.
those
and-
guys. That's actually one of my like new favorites.
Oh, yeah, they're cool.
I really enjoy Down in Front. What's
So-
that guy's name? Can you remember?
Fucking.
We've been talking to him on Twitter.
I know, you're going to ask me dumb questions and make me sound like an asshole. Like I
No,
don't know.
well, shit, dude. Like, you know that I refer to my kids as that boy and Hey Spawn. So,
Right.
like, I have a difficult time remembering my own children's names.
Will, Blaze, Bryce, and Mike.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I had to look
I
you
know.
up 'cause I-
Sorry, guys.
I forget. I can meet somebody and 2 seconds later I'm not going
Oh,
to
I do the same thing.
So,
That's fine. It's fine. But there's always plenty to pick from, you guys, and we definitely encourage you to like check them out.
Right.
Or like go dig around and see like if you find something that you're interested in. Spencer listens to tabletop gaming, like Warhammer and
Oh, yeah.
D&D and shit like that. Tons of podcasts and stuff that he listens to all the time. It's amazing what's out there.
Yeah, so
So
we're just trying to help you guys find other things that you might be interested in. 'Cause
yeah,
there's-
especially for like people like Angel that's driving around all day. That's literally her job. Mm-hmm. So
There's literally a podcast for whatever you can think of. I
true.
promise.
even to fall asleep at night.
There's stuff for
So-
meditation. There's anyways. So thank you for listening to part 2.
Of the Toy Box Killer.
Yes, the more meat and potatoes of this episode, and next week is when we get into the trial and the ending of David Parker Ray.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it should be a good time.
So, but then...
Let's see. Don't feed your dogs peanut butter and stay out of chalk lines. You gave me the saddest face. Like, I'm sorry.
Yes, don't feed your dog peanut butter and stay out of chalk lines. That was a good one.
Goodbye.
Or gravy.
Or gravy, yeah.
Don't give your dogs gravy. Don't serve it on a person and stay out of chalk lines. God, bye.
Ashes, ashes, ashes,